The rain hammered against the cracked pavement like bullets, turning the city streets into rivers of neon and shadow. Lena clutched her thin jacket tighter, her sneakers splashing through puddles as she ran toward the bus stop. Her shift at Romano's bakery had run late again. Mrs. Romano always found one more tray to clean, one more shelf to reorganize, and now she was racing against the last bus of the night. If she missed it, she'd have to walk 7 miles home. In this neighborhood, in this weather, with exactly $3.47 in her pocket. She rounded the corner and saw the bus idling at the stop, engine rumbling, exhaust mixing with rain. Relief flooded through her. She wasn't alone either. About a dozen people crowded under the shelter, shaking off water, counting change, arguing with the driver about exact fare. Lena joined the line, fishing out her crumpled bills. $2 for the fare. That left her with $1.47 until Friday's paycheck. No breakfast tomorrow, but she'd manage. She always did. The line moved slowly. An elderly woman argued about senior discounts. A teenager's card wouldn't scan. The driver, a heavy-set man with zero patience left in his tank, kept glancing at his watch and muttering about schedules. Then Lena noticed him. A man stood at the front of the line, perfectly still while chaos swirled around him. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, tailored so precisely it looked painted on. His dark hair was slicked back, rain dripping down a face that belonged on magazine covers, sharp jawline, intense eyes that seemed to calculate everything they saw. He was patting his pockets. Once. Twice. His movements growing more urgent. "Sir, fare or exit," the driver barked. "You're holding on my route." The man's voice was smooth, controlled. "I apologize. My wallet. It appears I've lost it. Not my problem." Off the bus. "I can provide identification once I reach my destination. I assure you." "Do I look like I run a charity?" "Off. Now." The man's jaw tightened. For just a second, something dangerous flashed in his eyes, something that made Lena's instincts scream that this was not a man you said no to. But then it vanished, replaced by careful neutrality. He stepped back from the fare box. "Wait," Lena heard herself say. Everyone turned to look at her. The man's gaze locked onto hers, and she felt pinned by it, like a butterfly under glass, every detail of her examined in an instant. Her second-hand jacket, her flour-dusted jeans, her worn-out sneakers with the sole coming loose. She pushed forward, holding out 2 crumpled dollar bills. "I'll pay his fare." The driver snatched the money. "That's for you, honey." "What about him?" Lena's throat tightened. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her last bills, $1.47 in coins. Her breakfast money, her emergency fund, her safety net. She dumped it into the fare box. "There. 2 fares." The driver counted it, grunted, and waved them both through. Lena moved quickly down the aisle, not waiting for thanks, not making eye contact. She'd done good deeds before. They always made her feel exposed, vulnerable, like she'd revealed too much of herself. She found a seat near the back, pressed against the rain-streaked window, and tried to become invisible. The man stood in the aisle for a long moment. Then he walked past her, choosing a seat 3 rows ahead. He didn't look back. The bus lurched forward, windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm. Lena watched the city blur past, pawn shops, closed restaurants, apartment buildings with flickering lights. She calculated in her head, skip breakfast, water down the instant coffee. Maybe Mrs. Romano would let her take home the day-old bread again. She didn't notice the cars at first. 2 black sedans, sleek and expensive, pulled out from a side street as the bus passed. They fell into position behind the bus, matching its speed exactly. Their headlights cut through the rain like predator eyes. Lena glanced at them, then away. Rich people, probably heading to the same fancy neighborhood as Soup Guy up front. But then the bus turned left. So did the sedans. The bus turned right at the next light. The sedans followed. Lena's pulse quickened. She looked around the bus. Most passengers were half asleep or staring at phones. No one else seemed concerned. Except the man in the suit. He'd shifted in his seat, angled so he could watch both the front windshield and the back window through the reflection. His posture looked relaxed, but Lena saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand rested near his jacket's inner pocket. The bus made another turn. This wasn't the normal route. The driver was detouring through side streets, probably avoiding construction. The sedan stayed locked behind them. Then something odd happened. The man stood up, walked to the driver, and spoke quietly. Lena couldn't hear the words, but she saw him slip something to the driver. Maybe a bill, maybe more. The driver's eyes went wide, and he nodded quickly. The bus suddenly accelerated, taking a sharp right turn that wasn't on any route map. Passengers grumbled and grabbed their seats. The man walked back down the aisle, steady despite the movement, and this time he sat directly across from Lena. Up close, she could see details she'd missed. A thin scar along his jawline. Cufflinks that caught the light. Were those real sapphires? And his eyes, God, his eyes were the coldest shade of gray she'd ever seen, like winter storms frozen in place. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. Lena blinked. "What?" "The fare. You gave your last money, it wasn't a question." "How did you?" "I noticed things," he glanced out the back window. The sedans had fallen behind, confused by the sudden route change. "You have flour in your hair. Your hands are red from harsh soap, industrial kitchen work. Your jacket has a patch that doesn't match. You counted those coins 3 times before you paid. That wasn't spare change. That was everything." Lena felt her face flush. "It's just bus fare." "Nothing is just anything." He was still watching the window. The sedans were gone now, lost in the maze of side streets. Something in his posture relaxed slightly. "What's your name?" "Lena." "Lena," he repeated it like he was filing it away. "Thank you for the kindness. It may have saved my life." Before she could ask what that meant, he pressed the stop button. The bus slowed at a corner Lena didn't recognize, nowhere near any scheduled stop. The man stood, buttoned his suit jacket with precise movements, and turned to her one last time. "Go straight home tonight. Don't stop anywhere. Don't talk to strangers." The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Present company excluded." Then he was gone, stepping off into the rain and vanishing into an alley between buildings. Lena sat frozen in her seat, heart pounding for reasons she couldn't name. Through the window, she caught one last glimpse of him, standing in the shadows, phone pressed to his ear, rain streaming down his face. For just a second, he looked back at the bus. At her. Then the bus turned a corner, and he disappeared. Lena rode the rest of the way home in silence, trying to convince herself it was just a weird encounter. Rich guy loses his wallet, gets help, end of story. But she couldn't shake the image of those 2 black sedans. Or the way he'd said, "saved my life," like he meant it literally. Or the feeling that she'd just stepped into something far bigger than a simple act of kindness. The rain continued to fall as the bus carried her home through the dark city streets, and Lena had no idea that her life had just changed forever. Lena woke to sunlight stabbing through her curtains and her stomach growling like an angry dog. She'd forgotten no breakfast money. The coffee tin sat empty on the counter, mocking her generosity from last night. "Stupid," she muttered, pulling on her bakery uniform. "Stupid, stupid, stupid." But even as she said it, she couldn't regret helping him. Those gray eyes had held something, desperation, maybe? Fear? Whatever it was, it had felt real. She pushed the memory away and headed to work. Romano's bakery sat on a corner that smelled like heaven, warm bread, cinnamon, vanilla. Lena arrived 20 minutes early, like always, and started prepping the display cases. Mrs. Romano was already barking orders from the kitchen, her accent thick as the dough she was kneading. "Lena, the croissants, they need rotating. And the espresso machine, she's making that noise again." "On it, Mrs. Romano." The morning rush came in waves, construction workers grabbing coffee, office people wanting fancy lattes, mothers with strollers ordering custom birthday cakes. Lena worked the register, boxed pastries, smiled until her face hurt. Then she noticed the cars. 2 black SUVs parked directly across the street. Tinted windows. Engines running. They'd been there for over an hour. Mrs. Romano? Lena called toward the kitchen. Do we have a big order today? Catering, maybe? No, why? There are some expensive cars outside. Mrs. Romano waddled out, wiping flour on her apron. She squinted through the window, then shrugged. Probably waiting for someone at the law office upstairs. Rich people and their fancy cars. Back to work. But something felt wrong. Lena had lived in this city long enough to recognize when she was being watched. The cars weren't waiting for lawyers. They were watching the bakery. Watching her. No. She was being paranoid. Last night had spooked her. That's all. The strange man, the chase, his cryptic warning. It was making her see threats that weren't there. She forced herself to focus on customers, on work, on anything else. But the cars didn't leave. 3 blocks away, on a rooftop garden that cost more than most people's houses, Marco stood behind a telescope pointed at Romano's bakery. She's there, said Vincent, his second-in-command, lowering binoculars. Working. Normal routine. Doesn't seem aware. Marco watched Lena through the lens. She was smiling at a customer, boxing up cannoli, completely oblivious to the SUVs across the street. Or the 3 men in a coffee shop next door. Or the motorcycle that had circled the block twice. She has no idea what she's done, Marco said quietly. Boss, with respect, she paid bus fare. That's it. How would the Kozlov brothers even know? They had eyes at every station last night. When I deviated from my route, they started asking questions. Checked traffic cameras. Saw me board a city bus. Marco's jaw tightened. With her. Vincent cursed under his breath. They think she's one of ours. Worse. They think she's important to me. Marco stepped back from the telescope. Which means they'll use her to draw me out. So, what's the play? Eliminate the threat. No, the word came out sharp. She's innocent. This is our mess, not hers. Boss, since when do we protect civilians? You've always said. I know what I've said. Marco turned, and Vincent immediately went quiet. But she gave her last money to a stranger. In this city. In this world. That kind of, he paused, searching for the word. Purity. It doesn't exist anymore. And I won't let it be destroyed because of me. Vincent looked like he wanted to argue, but knew better. What are your orders? Keep 3 men on rotation. Sight distance only. If Kozlov's people make a move, intercept before they reach her. And Vincent. Marco's eyes went cold. If anything happens to that girl, I'm holding you personally responsible. Understood. Marco took one last look through the telescope. Lena was laughing at something a customer said, her whole face lighting up. She probably made minimum wage, lived in some cramped apartment, worried about bus fare. And because of him, she was now a target. His phone buzzed. A text from his informant inside the Kozlov organization. They're planning something. Soon. Marco pocketed the phone and headed for the roof exit. He had calls to make, people to lean on, favors to cash in. Whatever it took to keep the girl with a kind smile safe from the world he'd built. Even if she never knew it. Back at the bakery, Lena's unease grew as the day wore on. The SUVs finally left around 3, but they were replaced by a sedan. Then a motorcycle. Always someone watching. When her shift ended at 6, she practically ran from the building. She took a different route home, cutting through alleys and side streets. Kept checking over her shoulder. The paranoia felt ridiculous, but she couldn't shake it. Halfway home, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You're being followed. Don't run. Act normal. Turn left at the next corner. Lena's blood went ice cold. She stopped walking, staring at the screen. Who the hell? Another text, trust me. Like you did last night. The man from the bus. It had to be. Her hands shaking, Lena turned left. Another text came immediately. Good. Keep walking. My people will handle the rest. Your people? Lena whispered. What the hell did I get myself into? She kept walking, every nerve screaming, and tried not to think about those two black sedans from last night. Or why someone would need people to protect a bakery girl who'd simply paid a bus fare. 2 days passed in a fog of paranoia. Lena saw shadows everywhere, in the grocery store, on her bus ride, outside her apartment window. The mysterious texts had stopped after that first night, leaving her with more questions than answers. She'd almost convinced herself she'd imagined the whole thing when the knocking started. It was past 11. Lena was microwaving leftover rice, her tiny apartment silent except for the hum of old appliances. The knock came hard and deliberate, 3 sharp raps that didn't sound friendly. Her heart jumped. She crept to the door, checked the peephole. 2 men stood in the hallway. Both wore dark suits that screamed money and muscle. The one in front had a shaved head and a neck like a tree trunk. The other was thinner, with cold eyes and hands clasped in front of him like a funeral director. Miss Lena Torres, the bald one called through the door. She didn't answer, didn't breathe. We know you're home, miss. We're not here to hurt you. We have a delivery. I didn't order anything. It's a gift. From someone grateful. Lena's mind raced. Call the police? And say what? 2 well-dressed men brought her a gift? Scream? Her neighbors would ignore it like they ignored everything else in this building. Please, the thin one said, his voice smoother. We'll leave it at the door if you prefer. But Mr. Castellano wanted to ensure you received it personally. Castellano. That name, she'd heard it somewhere. Where? Against every instinct, Lena cracked the door open, chains still fastened. Leave it and go. The bald man held up a sleek black envelope, the kind that came with designer invitations. Next to it, a small box wrapped in silver paper. He placed them carefully on the doormat, then both men stepped back, hands visible. Have a good evening, miss. They walked away, disappearing into the stairwell. Lena waited 5 full minutes before unchaining the door and snatching the items inside. The envelope was heavy, expensive paper with her name written in elegant script. Inside, she found a card with an address and a single sentence, for the kindness shown. Beneath the card sat $500 in crisp bills. No, Lena whispered.
No, no, no.
She tore open the silver box. A watch gleamed inside, sleek, sophisticated, with a designer logo she recognized from store windows she'd never dream of entering. The price tag would have covered 3 months of her rent. This was insane. She'd paid $2 in bus fare, and someone sent her hundreds in cash, and a watch that cost, what? Thousands. The apartment suddenly felt too small, the walls pressing in. She grabbed her jacket, shoved the envelope and box into her purse, and ran. The address led to the industrial district, crumbling warehouses, rusted chain-link fences, streets where the lamps had burned out years ago. Lena's taxi driver had refused to take her all the way, dropping her 3 blocks away with a worried look. You sure about this, honey? She wasn't. But she had to return this money, had to make whoever this was understand she didn't want their gratitude or their dangerous attention. The address belonged to a warehouse with shattered windows and graffiti-covered walls. The door hung loose on broken hinges. Abandoned. Completely abandoned. You've got to be kidding me, Lena muttered. She stepped inside anyway, using her phone's flashlight to navigate. Empty. Just concrete floors, pigeon droppings, and the smell of decay. No office. No people. Nothing. A setup. Or a mistake.
Or.
Her phone rang, nearly giving her a heart attack. Unknown number. Hello. Miss Torres, a woman's voice, professional and cold. I'd advise leaving that location immediately. Who is this? How did you? You're being watched. 3 men, east entrance. They're not ours. Not yours? What is that even?
Leave. Now.
Use the north exit, turn right, stay in lit areas. A car will meet you 2 blocks north. black sedan, license plate ending in 47. Get in. I'm not getting in a strange car. Then you'll be getting into their car instead. Your choice. 30 seconds. The line went dead. Lena heard voices, rough, speaking a language she didn't recognize. Footsteps echoing off concrete. Getting closer.
She ran.
The north exit opened to an alley. She bolted right, legs pumping, lungs burning. Behind her, shouts erupted. They'd seen her. The street ahead blazed with light from a convenience store. Lena sprinted toward it, praying for witnesses, for safety, for anything. A black sedan squealed around the corner, stopping directly in her path. The back door flew open. Get in. A man's voice, urgent but not threatening. Behind her, the footsteps grew louder. She caught a glimpse, 3 men, one reaching inside his jacket. Lena dove into the sedan. The door slammed, tires screeched, and they were moving. She looked back to see the 3 men standing in the street, watching them disappear. What the hell is happening? Lena screamed. The driver, a woman with short cropped hair and a scar across her cheek, glanced in the mirror. You paid Marco Castellano's bus fare. Congratulations. You just became valuable. I don't even know who that is. Then you're about to learn. The sedan accelerated into the night, carrying Lena away from everything she knew and toward a world she'd never imagined existed. The sedan drove for 20 minutes, weaving through streets Lena didn't recognize. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She kept replaying those men in the warehouse, the way one had reached for something inside his jacket. A gun. He'd been reaching for a gun. Where are you taking me? Her voice cracked. The driver didn't answer, just took another turn into an underground parking garage. They descended 3 levels before stopping in a section empty except for 2 more black cars and 4 men in tactical gear. Out, the driver said. Lena's legs barely held her as she stepped onto concrete. One of the armed men gestured toward a steel door. She walked, feeling like she was heading to her execution. The door opened to a hallway that smelled like expensive cologne and gun oil. At the end, another door, this one heavy wood with brass handles. The driver knocked twice, then pushed it open. The room beyond was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering city. Leather furniture, a bar with crystal decanters, art that probably cost more than Lena would earn in her lifetime. And standing by the window, silhouetted against the lights, was him. Marco Castellano turned, and those gray eyes locked onto her with the same intensity as the bus. He'd changed from the suit into dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Even casual, he radiated danger. "Thank you, Sophia," he said to the driver. "That'll be all." Sophia left, closing the door with a quiet click. Silence stretched between them. Lena found her voice first. "You sent men to my apartment. I sent a gift. I don't want your money." I noticed a ghost of a smile. "You came to return it. That's why you walked into a trap." "A trap you set?" "No," his expression darkened. "A trap set by people who think you matter to me. And now, because you went there, they know you do." Lena's anger flared through her fear. "I didn't ask for any of this. I paid bus fare. $2. Why is everyone acting like I saved my life?" Marco moved closer, each step measured. "That's what you did, Lena Torres. Whether you meant to or not."
How?
"By paying. By changing my route." He stopped a few feet away. "That night, I was supposed to take my car from a meeting. My usual route, my usual time. But I was pickpocketed, professionally, I might add, and forced onto public transport. The bus you boarded." He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. Security footage showed a street intersection. Timestamp, the night they met. A black car exploded in a massive fireball. Lena's hand covered her mouth. "My car," Marco said quietly. "Rigged with C4. I was supposed to be in it. But I was on a bus because a girl with kind eyes paid my fare without hesitation." "Oh my God." The Kozlov brothers, my competition, they don't believe in coincidences. They think you're an asset. A plant. Someone I trust enough to alter patterns for. He set the phone down. And in this world, Lena, anyone I care about becomes a target. But you don't care about me. We're strangers. Try telling them that. His voice hardened. 3 men followed you tonight. If Sophia hadn't extracted you, they would have taken you to extract information you don't have. Do you understand what that means?
Lena did.
She'd seen enough crime shows. Torture.
Pain. Death.
Her legs gave out. She sank onto the nearest chair, head in her hands. This can't be real. This can't be happening. Marco crouched in front of her, bringing himself to eye level. Up close, she could see the scar on his jaw, the flecks of blue in those gray eyes, the weight of command he carried. I'm going to protect you, he said firmly. Whether you want it or not. My people will watch your apartment, your work, everywhere you go. If Kozlov's men approach you again, we'll handle it. Handle it how? His silence was answer enough. You're going to kill people. Because of me. I'm going to protect an innocent woman from being murdered by my enemies. Because of me, he stood. This isn't your fault, Lena. It's mine. But I won't let you pay for my world. I want to go home.
You will. Tomorrow.
Tonight. You stay here where it's safe. Sophia will show you to a room. He walked to the bar, poured whiskey with steady hands. For what it's worth, I wish you'd never stepped on that bus. I wish you'd let them kick me off. Your life would be simpler. Then why didn't you just pay the fare yourself? Marco looked at her, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because my wallet wasn't pickpocketed by accident. Someone wanted me off my routine. And if I'd revealed I had other means to pay, they'd have known I was aware of the threat. He took a drink. You were my perfect cover. A random act of kindness that looked like exactly what it was. But wasn't. No, his eyes held hers. It was so much more. The door opened. Sophia returned. The room's ready. Lena stood on shaking legs. At the door, she turned back. Marco stood framed by the window, the city sprawling behind him like a kingdom of shadows. Who are you? She whispered. Really? Someone who owes you a debt I can never repay. His expression hardened back to stone. Get some rest, Lena. Tomorrow, everything changes. Morning came with Sophia knocking on the guest room door, carrying fresh clothes in Lena's exact size. That detail unsettled her more than anything. How much did these people know about her? Boss wants you to eat before you leave, Sophia said, emotionless as always. Breakfast was laid out in a dining room that could seat 20. Lena sat alone at one end, picking at eggs she couldn't taste, when Marco appeared. He looked like he hadn't slept, tie loose, shadows under his eyes. I'm having you driven to work, he said without preamble. Sophia will maintain distance but stay close. If anything feels wrong, I know. Run to the scary people with guns. Lena pushed her plate away. Can I ask you something? Why not just let me go? Fake my death or something. Isn't that what you people do? You people, Marco's jaw tightened. You think this is a movie, Lena? Faking deaths requires bodies, paperwork, abandoned lives. You'd lose everything. Your identity, your friends, any chance at a normal future. He leaned against the table. I won't take that from you. You already have. The words hung between them. Marco looked away first. Romano's bakery felt different the moment Lena walked in. Mrs. Romano's usual morning chatter died when she saw her. The older woman's face was pale, hands twisting her apron.
Lena.
We need to talk. 3 customers sat in the corner booth, men in cheap suits who weren't eating, just watching. Lena's blood went cold. Mrs. Romano. I got a visit yesterday. After you left, her voice shook. Men asking questions about you. What time you work, where you live, who your friends are. They scared my other girls. They scared me. I can explain. I don't want explanations. I want my bakery safe. Tears welled in the older woman's eyes.
I'm sorry, Lena.
You're a good girl. But I can't. I have a business. A family. I can't have whatever trouble you're in spilling over here. The words hit like a slap. You're firing me? I'm protecting myself. And you should do the same. Mrs. Romano pulled an envelope from her apron. 2 weeks' pay.
Please.
Just go. Lena took the money with numb fingers and walked out. The 3 men in the booth watched her leave, smiling. Sophia was waiting by the car. One look at Lena's face, and she understood. Get in. They drove to Marco's building, a high-rise that gleamed like a steel knife. Sophia led her to a different floor this time, through a door marked private, into controlled chaos. Men and women moved with military precision. Computer screens showed security feeds, maps, lists of names. A war room disguised as an office. And in the center, Marco stood over a table covered in photographs, his voice ice-cold as he spoke into a phone. I don't care about his excuses. He failed to secure the perimeter. Make an example. He hung up, noticed Lena, and his expression shifted. You shouldn't be here. I have nowhere else to go, her voice broke. They took my job, Marco. Those men sat in the bakery like it was a threat, and Mrs. Romano. She was terrified. Marco's hands curled into fists. He turned to Vincent. The 3 at Romano's, bring them to me. Tonight. Boss, the Kozlovs will see it as escalation. I don't care what they see. They crossed a line. Vincent nodded and left. Marco moved to Lena, and for a moment, she saw something crack in his armor. Genuine regret. I have a safe house. Secure location, fully stocked. You'll stay there until this is resolved. For how long? However long it takes. To do what? Kill everyone who knows my face. Lena laughed bitterly. This is insane. A week ago, I was worried about rent. Now I'm homeless because I was nice to a stranger. You're not homeless. You're protected. I'm a prisoner. Marco's eyes flashed. You think I want this? You think I enjoy watching an innocent woman lose everything because she showed me kindness? He stepped closer, voice dropping. I've done terrible things, Lena. Things that would make you run screaming. But keeping you alive? That's the one decent act I can manage. Footsteps interrupted them. A woman in a sharp suit entered, whispered something to Marco. His expression darkened. Show her, he said. The woman pulled up security footage on a nearby screen. It showed Marco in this very room, 3 hours ago, ordering a hit. His voice clinical, detached. Then the feed switched. Marco in a different room, signing a check to St. Mary's Children's Hospital. $500,000. Lena stared. I don't understand. He does this every week, the woman said. Orders hits.
Donat million.
He's funding 12 orphanages, 4 homeless shelters, and a cancer research wing at City General. Why are you showing me this?
Marco answered, voice tight.
Because I want you to understand what I am. Not a monster. Not a hero. Just a man trying to survive a world I was born into while doing whatever good I can. He met her eyes. I won't apologize for protecting my people. But I also won't stop trying to save those who need it. Lena looked at the screens, the violence, and the charity side by side. 2 halves of the same person. The safe house, she whispered. When do we leave?
Now.
As Sophia led her away, Lena glanced back. Marco stood alone in his war room, surrounded by screens showing a city he controlled through fear and funded through guilt. And somehow, impossibly, she was starting to understand him. The safe house was a penthouse 20 stories up, with bulletproof windows and more security cameras than a casino. Lena spent 3 days there, pacing like a caged animal while Sophia and 2 other guards rotated shifts outside her door. On the 4th morning, Vincent arrived. Boss wants you to understand something, he said, settling into the armchair across from her. He looked uncomfortable, like a soldier asked to play therapist. About what you did. Why it mattered. I paid bus fare. I know the story. You know the aftermath. Not the setup. Vincent pulled out a tablet, tapped through files. 6 months ago, the Kozlov brothers started moving on Marco's territory. Drugs, weapons, trafficking, everything. They needed him gone. So they hired the best. He showed her a photo, a severe woman with dead eyes. Katia Volkov, former FSB. She spent 2 months studying Marco's patterns. Every route, every meeting, every timing. She found his weakness. What weakness? Routine. Marco left the Rossi meeting every Tuesday at 9:47 p.m. Same route home. Same speed. Same everything. Vincent swiped to surveillance footage. Katia's team rigged his car with explosives set to his ignition timing. Except, he showed her the timeline. Marco's car, still parked outside the Rossi building at 9:47. Then 9:50. Then 10 o'clock. He never got in, Lena whispered. Because his wallet was gone. A professional lift, one of Katia's people. They wanted him stressed, distracted, off his pattern. It worked too well. Vincent's expression was grim. Marco had to take public transport. Got on a bus. And then, I paid his fare. You changed his route completely. The hit team was positioned along his usual drive home. Spotters every 3 blocks, ready to confirm the kill. But Marco never showed. By the time they realized he'd gone ghost, he was already here, calling in countermeasures. Lena's hands trembled. So, when he said I saved his life, he meant it literally. That bomb was meant to look like engine failure, a tragic accident. No gang war, no retaliation, just a power vacuum the Kozlovs could fill. Vincent leaned forward. But you derailed everything. And in our world, Lena, there are no accidents. Only moves and countermoves. The tablet showed new photos, the 3 men from the bakery, now in body bags. Lena's stomach turned. Marco killed them. He sent a message. Touch her, touch my world. Vincent's voice was matter-of-fact. Problem is, the Kozlovs sent their own message last night. They grabbed one of our guys. Dante, good man, family loyal. What do they want? A trade. Dante for you. The room tilted. What? They don't believe you're nobody. They think you're Marco's strategist, his secret weapon, something. Vincent pocketed the tablet. So they set a trap. Leaked intel that you're being held at a warehouse on the docks. Marco knows it's a trap. He's going anyway. That's insane. That's loyalty, Vincent stood. Marco doesn't abandon his people. Even when it's smart to. Even when it'll get him killed. Then stop him.
Can't.
He's already en route. Vincent moved to the door, paused. He wanted you to know the truth. That your kindness didn't just save one life that night. It exposed an assassination plot, prevented a gang war, and protected about 200 people who work in Marco's territories. He met her eyes. You're not a victim, Lena. You're the reason we're all still breathing. He left. Lena sat in the silence, processing. Marco was walking into a trap. For someone named Dante. While she sat here, safe and useless. The penthouse felt like a tomb. She stood, walked to the window. The city sprawled below, Marco's city, full of people he protected through violence and charity, through fear and generosity. A kingdom built on contradictions. And he was about to die for it. Sophia entered without knocking, phone pressed to her ear. Her face had gone pale. Copy that. She hung up, looked at Lena. We need to move.
Now.
What's wrong? There's a leak. Someone in our organization sold us out. Sophia grabbed Lena's arm. The Kozlovs know you're here. They're coming. How long? They're already in the building. Gunfire erupted from the hallway, sharp cracks that made Lena's ears ring. Sophia shoved her toward the back bedroom. Fire escape. Go. What about Marco? He's got his own problems. Sophia thrust a phone into Lena's hands. There's one number programmed. When you're clear, call it. Tell them about the betrayal. I don't understand. More gunfire. Closer. Sophia chambered a round in her weapon. Marco's walking into an ambush, and we've got a traitor feeding them intel. Someone has to warn him. She met Lena's eyes. You paid his bus fare once. Now return the favor. The bedroom window shattered as bullets punched through. Sophia returned fire, giving Lena precious seconds. Lena ran for the fire escape, Phone clutched in shaking hands, and realized with crystal clarity that she'd stopped being a victim the moment she decided to care about the man in the charcoal suit. Now she had to save him, just like he'd been trying to save her. Lena's fingers shook as she climbed down the fire escape, gunfire echoing above. She hit the alley running, nearly colliding with a dumpster. The phone Sophia gave her felt like a bomb in her pocket. She ducked into a 24-hour convenience store, breathless. The clerk barely looked up from his magazine. Lena pulled out the phone, one contact saved. Vincent. She pressed call. He answered on the first ring. Sophia? It's Lena. Sophia told me to call. There's a traitor. The Kozlovs knew where I was.
Slow down.
Where are you? Corner store, maybe 12 blocks from the safe house. Vincent. Marco's walking into. I know. I'm with him, background noise. Engines, men shouting orders. We're 2 minutes from the warehouse. It's a trap. You have to stop him. He knows it's a trap, Lena. He's going anyway, Vincent's voice dropped. Wait, you said traitor? Sophia said someone inside sold us out. They knew exactly where I was when the guards changed shifts. Vincent cursed viciously. Boss, she heard him shout. We've got a leak. Kozlov's hit the safe house with our rotation intel. Muffled conversation. Then Marco's voice came through, tight, with controlled fury. Lena, are you hurt? No. But Sophia. I know.
She's dead.
They sent us photos 10 minutes ago. His voice could have cut steel. Where are you right now? She gave him the address. Marco, don't go to that warehouse.
Please.
They're going to kill you. They're going to try a pause. Vincent will send a car for you. Stay inside. Stay low. This ends tonight. What is that? The line went dead. The warehouse squatted on the docks like a metal beast, windows dark, doors hanging open like a mouth. Marco's convoy, 5 vehicles, 20 men, rolled up with military precision. Vincent checked his weapon. This smells wrong, boss. Everything about this screams setup. Because it is. Marco stepped out, scanning the building. Too quiet. Too easy. Dante's in there. Or his body is. Either way, we're not leaving him. And the traitor? Marco's expression went cold. Process of elimination. Whoever survives tonight, we audit tomorrow. They moved in, 2 teams, tactical formation. The warehouse interior was a maze of shipping containers and rusted machinery. Their footsteps echoed on concrete. Someone had left work lights on, casting harsh shadows. Dante. Vincent called out. You here? A groan came from behind a container. They found him, Dante, zip-tied to a chair, beaten bloody but alive. Vincent moved to cut him free. Wait, Marco's hand shot out. Why is he alive? Dante's eyes widened. Boss, please, they said if I cooperated. Marco saw it then. The wire under Dante's chair. The blinking device attached to the support beam. The way every container was positioned to create a kill box. Out! Marco roared. Everyone out. They ran. Marco grabbed Dante's chair, dragging him. Behind them, red lights started blinking faster. Vincent was shouting coordinates, men scrambling for exits. They burst through the doors as the first explosion ripped through the warehouse. The shockwave threw Marco forward. He rolled, came up with his gun drawn as containers erupted in sequence, a chain reaction designed to collapse the entire structure. And from the smoke, figures emerged. 20, 30 men, Kozlov's full force. They'd been waiting outside, ready to pick off survivors. Gunfire erupted from both sides. Marco's men returned fire from behind vehicles. Bullets sparked off metal. Someone screamed. Vincent went down with a leg wound. Marco dragged him to cover behind a concrete barrier. How many men we got?
8.
Maybe 9. Vincent clutched his leg. They've got 30, boss. We're not walking out of this. A black SUV screeched into the compound, reinforcements for the Kozlovs. Marco's jaw clenched. This was it. The end of the line. Then a different vehicle screamed onto the scene. A garbage truck, driving erratically, horn blaring. It slammed into the Kozlov reinforcement vehicle with a deafening crunch. The driver's door opened. Lena stumbled out, wild-eyed and terrified. "What the hell?" Marco started. "The traitor!" Lena screamed over the gunfire. "It's your consigliere."
Carlo.
Vincent said he stayed behind to secure the route, but Sophia said the intel was too perfect. They knew too much. Marco's blood went ice cold. Carlo had been with him for 5 years. Trusted. Family. A bullet sparked near Lena's head. Marco vaulted over the barrier and ran for her, firing to provide cover. He grabbed her arm, pulled her back to relative safety. "You drove a garbage truck into a gang war?" "It was parked with keys in it. I didn't have better options." Her voice was shaking, but her eyes were fierce. "You came for Dante. Someone had to come for you." Despite everything, the bullets, the blood, the betrayal, Marco almost smiled. "Vincent," he shouted. "Radio all units.
Carlo S. compromised.
Lock down the estate." Vincent nodded, already on it. Marco turned to his remaining men. "We've got 10 minutes before police arrive. Make them count." What followed was brutal. Marco's men fought with the desperation of the betrayed, and Marco himself moved through the chaos like a ghost, precise, lethal, unstoppable. When the Kozlov brothers finally emerged from their armored car, Marco was waiting. "You wanted me?" he called out. "Here I am." Marco Castellano, the older Kozlov brother, smiled. "The bastard prince, playing crime lord. Did you think we didn't know?" Lena's head whipped toward Marco. "Prince." Marco's expression was stone. "I'm Castellano by blood. Son of Antonio Castellano, rightful heir. I went underground 3 years ago to dismantle the corruption my father let fester." He raised his gun. "Starting with you." The standoff lasted 3 seconds. Then sirens wailed in the distance, and the Kozlov brothers fled. "Marco, let them go, for now." As police lights painted the night red and blue, Marco turned to Lena. Blood on his suit, smoke in his hair, the weight of secrets finally lifted. "I'm sorry you had to see this. I'm sorry you had to live it." Lena's hand found his. "But you're not alone anymore." 3 months later, Lena stood in front of a mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress was simple but elegant, deep blue, falling just below her knees. Not something she could ever afford, but it had arrived at her new apartment with a note. "For tonight. You've earned it." No signature. But she knew. Her new apartment was modest but safe, in a neighborhood where she didn't flinch at every car door. The bakery, her bakery now, somehow purchased through an anonymous investor, was thriving. She'd hired Mrs. Romano's daughter and 2 other girls who'd lost jobs to gang intimidation. Small victories, but they felt enormous. The invitation had arrived yesterday. Embossed cardstock, gold lettering. "You are cordially invited to the Castellano Foundation Annual Charity Gala. Cocktail attire. RSVP not required." She'd nearly thrown it away. Marco had disappeared the night of the warehouse, vanished while she was giving statements to police. Vincent had recovered, visited her once, and said only, "He's finishing what he started. Don't look for him." She hadn't. But she'd thought about him every single day. The gala was held in the Grand Meridian Hotel, all crystal chandeliers and marble floors. Lena felt like an imposter among the tuxedos and designer gowns, but a woman at the entrance checked her name and smiled warmly. "Miss Torres, we've been expecting you. Your table is reserved." The ballroom was breathtaking. Ice sculptures, champagne towers, a string quartet playing Mozart. Hundreds of people networked and laughed, their jewelry probably worth more than her entire neighborhood. Lena found her table front and center, with a placard reading "Reserved." The other seats were empty. A man approached the podium, elderly, distinguished, with Marco's sharp jawline. "Antonio Castellano." She recognized him from news articles she'd devoured after that night. "Ladies and gentlemen," Antonio's voice commanded silence. "Thank you for joining us tonight. 3 months ago, We lost someone extraordinary. My son, Marco. Lena's breath caught. Many of you knew him as a businessman. Some knew his complicated history, a sad smile. But few knew the truth. Marco spent 3 years undercover, infiltrating the criminal organizations that had corrupted our family's legacy. He gathered evidence, exposed networks, and worked with federal authorities to dismantle what my generation failed to control. Photos appeared on screens throughout the ballroom, Marco shaking hands with FBI directors, signing testimony documents, standing in courtrooms. He sacrificed everything, Antonio continued. His safety, his reputation, his future. 2 months ago, his testimony resulted in the arrest of 47 individuals across 5 organizations, including the Kozlov Syndicate. The corruption that plagued the city for decades is finally ending. Applause erupted. Lena's eyes burned. Marco established this foundation before his disappearance, directing that his entire inheritance fund community programs. Tonight, we announced the opening of 12 new facilities. Antonio gestured to the screens, including the Torres Community Kitchen, a place where anyone, regardless of circumstance, can receive a warm meal and a kind word. The screen showed a building Lena recognized, the old warehouse district transformed. A gleaming kitchen, dining halls, her name carved in stone above the entrance. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Miss Lena Torres, Antonio said, looking directly at her. Would you please stand? Every head turned. Lena rose on shaking legs. My son told me about you. About a girl who gave her last coins to a stranger because it was the right thing to do. Antonio's voice softened. He said you reminded him why we fight for better. Why some things are worth dying for. The Torres kitchen exists because you showed him that kindness still matters. The applause was deafening. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She sat down hard, overwhelmed. The gala continued, speeches, auctions, donations totaling millions. Lena moved through it in a daze. During the silent auction, she wandered to her table and found something on her chair. A small envelope. Her name in familiar handwriting. Inside, a card and a key. Lena, by the time you read this, I'll be far from the city. The testimony is complete, but there are still people who want me dead. For your safety and mine, I have to disappear. The key opens the Torres kitchen. It's yours to run, to build, to fill with the same kindness you showed me. Vincent will help with anything you need. I've spent my life drowning in violence, trying to balance scales that can never be even. But that night on the bus, you tipped the balance without even trying. You gave freely, expecting nothing. That's a kind of power I'll never have. I wish I could have known you in a different life. One where we met in a coffee shop instead of a crisis. Where my last name didn't come with blood debts and federal warrants. But I'm grateful for the life where a girl with flower in her hair and kindness in her heart paid a stranger's bus fare. You saved me in more ways than you'll ever know. A coin for a fare. A debt for a lifetime. P.S. The watch from that first delivery? It's in the kitchen safe. Still yours if you want it. Though I suspect you'll donate it to auction. Lena clutched the letter, tears falling freely now. Around her, the gala sparkled with wealth and power, but all she could see was a rain-soaked bus stop and a man with storm-gray eyes who'd looked at her like she was something precious. She walked to the ballroom's windows, gazed out at the city lights sprawling to the horizon. Somewhere out there, Marco Castellano was alive. Starting over. Carrying the weight of everything he'd done and everything he'd lost. But he'd left her something more valuable than money or property. He'd left her proof that one small act of kindness could echo through lives, change trajectories, save souls. Lena pressed her hand to the glass, whispered to the night. Thank you. For letting me save you too. The city glittered back, full of strangers who might need bus fare, might need a meal, might need someone to see them as human. And Lena Torres, who once worried about $2, now had the means to pay it forward 1,000 times over. She smiled through her tears, tucked Marco's letter into her purse, and walked back into the ballroom. There was work to do. Kindness to spread. Lives to change. One coin at a time.